What's good with the YouTube of Convicts Perspective? It's your boy, Big Flacco, smashing, dashing, sliding on through with what? Little bit of energy, man. Having a bad hair day, so I got this on, but oh well, I'm a rock it anyways, man. What's cracking everybody out there? So we got an interesting article right now, man. We're gonna be discussing, man, about the fellas from down the way, the big homies. And it goes into like how a little bit about how they have their personal conflicts and struggles in over territorial and stuff like that, man. I'm gonna let Rojo take it over from here, and then we're gonna give a convict's perspective on this.
All right, you guys, man. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday. And this comes from the Whittier Daily News, and it's titled, "The Mexican Mafia's Roots Run Deep in the San Gabriel Valley." And this is August 30th, 2017. So it's a little bit older, man, but it's a great article, man, so we wanted to share with you guys. Okay, here we go. Ralph Tarico Rocha and Rafael Cisco Gonzalez Munoz committed what is considered a mortal sin among the ranks of the dreaded Mexican Mafia prison gang. They encroached into the drug territory of a senior member. Their transgression marked them for death, according to county prosecutors, who in early December charged 6 individuals with trying to murder Rocha and Gonzalez on behalf of another made Mexican Mafia member, Chaco Padilla. The 6, including Padilla's wife, La Puente resident Maria Lola Antada, are in the LA County Jail awaiting a March 7th court date. Despite the arrest, Rocha and Gonzalez Munoz are likely still in mortal danger. Sheriff's officials have confirmed that Rocha was shot last week in the Norwalk area. His injuries were relatively minor. However, he was treated from a local hospital and released. Law enforcement investigators and gang associates say the case, along with a spate of other Mexican Mafia-related cases over the past year, illustrate the influence exerted across vast swaths of the San Gabriel Valley by the prison gang, also known as La M. The case also shows that the pilfering of taxes on drugs by rival gangs is behind many cases of M-related violence, which has plagued the area for decades. Law enforcement experts trace the birth of La M, named for the Spanish pronunciation of the letter M, to 1957, when a small group of juvenile gangsters from Los Angeles banded together for protection at the Duell Vocational Institution in Tracy. Since then, the group has grown to include between 200 and 400 made members and is considered the most powerful prison gang based in California, controlling narcotics distribution inside and outside of prison walls, and enforcing its edicts on the streets through murders and mayhem carried out by members of affiliated street gangs known as surenos, which number in the tens of thousands. If your gang is from Southern California and you're Latino, you are going to answer to the MA, said a former Mexican Mafia associate from the Norwalk area who asked not to be identified for fear of retaliation. And the San Gabriel Valley has long been the MA's backyard. The first murder attributed to the MA beyond prison walls occurred in late 1971 in Monterey Park, according to declassified FBI documents, where Mexican Mafia member Alfonso Paqui Alvarez was found shot twice in the head in a secluded city park. His offense was collecting taxes on narcotic dealers without kicking up the profits to MA leaders behind bars. Known in the gang.
Bro, was that a Paqui or Apache? Paqui or Apache?
It's spelled, man, it might be Patchy. It might be Patchy. Alfonso Patchy Alvarez. Okay. Could be. It looked like it said Paqui. Behind bars, known in the gang as the Big Homies or Ameros. As early as 1974, according to the FBI documents, the MA had carved the San Gabriel Valley into 7 districts for the organized trafficking of narcotics. The territories were named for the communities they encompassed: Chapman Woods, Arcadia, Temple City, El Monte, Santa Fe Springs, and Whittier, and were each assigned to a different MA member who was in charge of collecting taxes on gangs and drug dealers operating in the area. Based on our intelligence, they take about 1/3 of the profits from criminal activity in their territories, said Guillermo Moreno, a special agent for the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations who specializes in La M. Crossing a powerful figure. Moreno characterized Jaco Padilla, who is serving time in Corporate State Prison, as one of the most high-ranking MA members in the San Gabriel Valley. Padilla was originally an Azusa gangster, but was granted control of La Puente area based on his relationship with his wife, said LA Sheriff Homicide Detective Brian Steinwand, who investigated the case. Antada was from the La Puente area, so when the families got together, the whole La Puente area became his. It is not uncommon for MA members' wives or girlfriends to control their territories once they become incarcerated, said Moreno. It is always someone they trust, and most of the time it is going to be a girlfriend or a wife because they start helping them out during visits and doing stuff for them. Detectives investigating the 2006 shooting of a Valinda man by alleged gang associates stumbled on Antada's proxy control of the La Puente drug territory and the murder conspiracy against Rocha and Gonzalez Munoz. We heard from informants that Rocha and Gonzalez Munoz were encroaching on La Puente and surrounding neighborhoods. We had heard rumors that Padilla controlled parts of Baldwin Park or El Monte, but we have also heard other MA members controlling those areas. As far as actual boundaries of drug territories, I don't think even they know what they are. The blurry nature of the rules of criminal enterprise combined with rivalries between different hierarchies within the MA and old-fashioned greed often escalate into rivalry within the Mexican Mafia, as it did in the Antada case, investigators said. Federal versus state. Steinwine said Gonzalez Munoz was from La Puente and was part of a clique of the Puente Trece street gang before he became a full-blown MA member in federal prison. Trece, Spanish for the number 13, is a moniker used by gangs swearing allegiance to the MA. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. Rocha is the more senior of the two. Like Gonzalez Munoz, Rocha, originally from the Norwalk area, became an MA member in the federal penitentiary system after he was indicted on federal racketeering charges, along with high-ranking MA members like Benjamin Topo Peters, Ruben Night Owl Castro, Raymond Weddle Shy Shyrock, and Randy Cowboy Therian. But the fact that both were made in the federal prison system automatically put them in a position of competition and subservience with the state-based emitters like Padilla, Moreno said. The state prison guys were the founders of the original Mexican Mafia, so they have more power in California and in La Puente, said Moreno. And you are not supposed to disrespect any family member of an emero, so she and Tata should not have been disrespected since she was working for Padilla. The prosecutor said that is exactly what Gonzalez Munoz and Rocha did upon being released from federal prison in early 2007. Officials with the DA's office would not comment on how much drug tax the two intercepted, but at least two former gang associates said Perico and Cisco pilfered tens of thousands of dollars from drug dealers in Padilla's territory. Norwalk and surrounding barrios are dry right now, and the San Gabriel Valley is still a good earner for the MA, so Perico moved in, said the former MA associate from Norwalk, who said he is related to a deceased MA member. A big homie like Joko would control his surrounding area like Puente, Bassett, El Monte, Covina, Bolin Parque. So what angered Joko was that Perico was moving in on his turf. He said drug dealers in the area, even legitimate businesses, including a tow truck company, have been visited by Rocha's associates as recently as 2 weeks before the Antada arrests. They would say the big homie Perico has the blessing of, and would name Joko or another well-known emero, and these guys would, out of fear, kick up the tax. It is a common tactic employed by MA members or associates while encroaching on one another's turf. Drug dealers are paying one guy because he is MA, and then another comes and tells them they have to pay him now, he said. The official with the DA's office involved in the case likened the tactics used by the Mexican Mafia members against one another to a hostile corporate takeover. Control of territory, narcotic sales, and prostitution are very important to these criminal organizations, said the prosecutor, who declined to be identified for security reasons. It is analogous to a corporation. If they are vulnerable of being taken over, they can be taken over. It's all about money. Rocha and Gonzalez Munoz apparently miscalculated Padilla's influence. Prosecutors allege Padilla gave his wife permission to target the two by issuing a green light, gang parlance, for an assassination order from prison. They believe Padilla used family members to sneak out a kite with his orders printed in miniature writing on them in order to ensure the hit. And despite the disruption of the hit, those orders apparently still landed, and they still stand. Word on the street is that Perico is still off the reservation, a target, said the MA associate. And that could be why Rocha was shot last week. Sheriff officials would not release details about the incident, only to say they received a call Friday night about a shooting involving Rocha. He was uncooperative with detectives when they interviewed him, and he was treated for minor injuries and released the same day. Detectives would not speculate on whether the shooting was related to the green light issued by Padilla. I have no idea. This guy is involved in so much criminal activity, it's hard to tell. While prosecutors disrupted the alleged murder plans by Antada and her co-conspirators, Rocha and Gonzalez Munoz are still free and possibly continuing their criminal activities in apparent violation of the condition of their supervised release. And like the Emero that they had allegedly crossed, the two have been convicted of serious crimes. Rocha was rolled up along with other high-ranking MA members in one of the first federal racketeering indictments of the Mexican Mafia in 1994. Accused in court documents of attending MA business meetings, drug dealing, ordering the stabbing of a rival gangster, and conspiring to murder others. Gonzalez Munoz was indicted in 2002 of stabbing a fellow federal inmate on behalf of the Aryan Brotherhood, a white prison gang which is allied with the Mexican Mafia. Both have served their sentences by 2007 and happen to find themselves as targets and not the aggressors in the Antada case. They were the would-be victims, and we did not target them in the investigation, says Lieutenant Pat Nelson of the Sheriff's Homicide Division. He said that the information about the case had been passed on to federal officials. Tom Mozak, spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, could not comment on whether officials were investigating the two for possible violations. The Antada case is the latest example of the influence of the MA wields in the San Gabriel Valley. In April of 2006, 4 men were arrested in Pomona in connection with the attempted Mexican Mafia contract killing. Their trial is scheduled for later this year. Last November, reported MA member Frankie B. Buelna, 61, was shot to death in a Pomona Spots bar. Buelna was reported to have broad powers within the Mexican Mafia, and officials are still investigating the motives behind his killing. The perpetrators are still at large. And in December, reputed MA member Lalo Martinez, 46, was charged with ordering the killing of a former gang member, Donald Pato Schubert, in Rosemead in 1998. In that case, prosecutors allege that Martinez runs the Lomas Rosemead street gang from Pelican Bay State Prison, where he has been incarcerated for the past 15 years. The MA's deep roots in the San Gabriel Valley became clearly evident the Sheriff's Homicide Investigation Team when they moved to the industry station from the South Central Los Angeles area earlier this year. Over there in South Central, when there were orders from the MA to stop drive-bys, guys would go out and do 5 of them in one single night just to spite them, said Steinwan. But they have a lot more control on this side of the 710 freeway. When I came to work at the industry station, it was amazing. When the MA said something, the gangs listened.
That's actually a pretty good article right there, bro.
Yeah, it was good.
They kind of brought up, you know what's a trip though, man? Before we go into a little perspective, right? I know Jaques Padilla. I did a couple years with him in the shoe. Very influential MA member. He got MA tattoo right here on his chest. His secretary was my vecino. He passed away though. Jack was dead. But and the thing that's interesting about this, man, is I was kind of up there when a lot of this stuff was going on. You know what I mean? Years after, right? Encroaching on people's territory. This is the thing that kind of differentiates the MA between the NF, is that you as a made member, you kind of stand independent on your own 2 feet within that group, that organization. There's no chain of command, there's no structure, but there's mutual agreements, there's politicking. Even though allegedly it says no MA member is supposed to politic against each other, this is the prime example of kind of like a state fed issue, but on a whole lower scale, because they don't have that group chain of command. You know, so sometimes members come out, it looks like, and they feel some type of way. They feel they have the blessings from other members. But then this right here kind of, if you really look at it, it's a California MA and a federal MA encroaching on each other's territory. And that stuff's currently going on to this day, man. I'm not going to touch on their current issues, man, but Jacko did a lot of stuff later on down the lines, man, that was kind of questionable, that had him fall out of favor, man. He recruited my vecino without the blessings, without the vote, to where my ex-vecino, he ended up getting hit in New Folsom because he thought he was a metal and he was doing other things on behalf of Jacko, sending out green lights out there to the streets as his secretary, stuff that wasn't properly sanctioned. So Jacko was a moneymaker. You know what I'm saying? That was his whole stilo. He was about making money. He was sharp in that aspect, man. I'm not going to touch base on other things I've seen from him, man, but he was okay, dude, man. His vecino I really liked, man, was a solid cat, man. I was actually teaching his secretary how to play the stock market because they were engaged in illicit activities. You know what I mean? As far as working with him, you know, it opened up the doors for him. But because of Jacko's demise later on, and him being the padrino for him, and it not being properly sanctioned, I heard that Shotgun got hit in New Folsom recently, a couple of years ago, once it got kicked out to the main line, man. But yeah, very interesting article, man, especially being around some of these cats.
Yeah, I haven't been around a lot, man. Every time I've landed in the Bay, man, I've been in, northern dominated areas. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. There's been all kinds of them, like, in the pods next to me over there, because they got each pod has A, B, C, D, E, and F. It's just the luck of the draw, man. So I've only been around two that I know for sure were made members and two that I'm 90% sure were actual members. And, back then there wasn't a lot of interaction. We were on cool terms, say, how you doing? Good morning. You need anything? Good night. You want to work out? We were on those kind of terms, man, but, it wasn't quite as cool as it seems to be nowadays. So I didn't get a chance to know a lot of them dudes, man, but they do their thing, bro. They do their thing.
But it's interesting though that they have no type of structure like or bylaws that can protect themselves from politics, if that makes sense, man. Because you had the other one that got killed a few years ago. You know what I'm saying? Danny Roman and a couple other cats. You know what I mean? That have been that to their belief they were on good standings, but it got murked because it was all people encroaching on territory. It's all about money. So I kind of don't understand how it works for them to be able to coexist. If you're a member, you're supposed to be a carnal, you're supposed to be a brother, you're part of the same organizations, but yet you're campaigning, you're fighting over territory and money. It's similar. It's similar to the NF struggles that we've seen with the current federal state issue after Operation Blackwood. It was similar but different because the NF has that hierarchy structure of positions. They have their captains, they have their generals, they have their inner council, they have all those positions. The MA doesn't have it, so you don't see conflict as far as statewide because they're just given territories. You know what I'm saying? Whereas the NF, if someone's given a sanction through a higher authority, a higher command to be in charge of that regiment, no one's in position to question it. But in these type of situations, read the story, man. These guys came out from the feds and they just started moving into territory, doing their thing, because that's what's expected for them to do it as mafia bosses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still trip out how they have no chain of command, bro. You know what I mean? No type of structure in that faction. I think there may be some different changes in the feds. You know what I'm saying? Where they have maybe a little bit different understanding and how they delegate responsibilities and jurisdictions. But I mean, how do you, if you're not supposed to politic, right? Which is one of the rules I've seen, then how do you approach to put up people for vote to get whacked? You get what I'm saying? Because apparently to have another car not hit, you have to put it up for a vote. So I wonder if these guys, if now the trends that are setting, are people acting rogue or are they just doing what they're doing? You get what I'm saying?
There ain't no telling, man. I don't know. I don't know how they vote for members. I mean, there's a lot of them dudes and they're all spread out, man. I don't know if they all have to agree. I don't know, man. It's a trip. Their stuff's a lot different, man, but it works for them,
It works.
Yeah, I mean, they have their things. Every group's gonna have their things, man, because you get a bunch of alpha males, I mean, that's just how it's gonna go down, bro. There's everything's not always gonna be hand in hand like it's supposed to be. It's just not human nature. You get, strong personalities and people that just don't like each other.
Well,
we're supposed
like
to be
this.
brothers. It doesn't matter.
It's like this, Rojo. You got the East Bay. You know what I mean? You got Dakota, you got Hayward, you got Concord, Pittsburgh, and Oakland, right? I start going out there and taxing people for my pockets. You're gonna feel a certain way about it, right? but you wouldn't know if I wasn't sanctioned to do that or not, right? This is a prime example. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to have the authority to have me whacked based upon the fact that I'm impeding in your territory, which you've been sanctioned to? Or are you going to have to cross-check that to make sure that I wasn't given another jurisdiction from somebody else? Because that shit happens, bro.
I would have to cross-check it. You know what I mean? I mean, if you were the same as me, if you were anybody else, it'd just be over.
Yeah.
You know, but if we were the same, I'd have to cross-check, you know. As I'm sure they have to too, bro. It's you can't just take out made members of any of the group just because you don't like them or whatever. You gotta get the collective's permission, or you're gonna. I don't know. That's what I think. I don't think they're any different in that regard. But you never know, man.
Yeah.
I would always err on the side of caution, bro, because I don't like getting in trouble. You know what I mean? So I would ask first. You know.
Yeah.
Personally.
It seems like you've had a lot of people in the last like 10 years that like were very influential long-term members of these groups, right? You just mentioned one in the spill, Frankie B and all that, right? And other individuals who've been hit. And it's just kind of it's not our business, it's not our issues, it's not our conflict. I just kind of find it kind of a little interesting that someone could have such a long career, could get taken out. And a lot of times it's all over territory money. You would think after 20, 30 years, they've been able to, that's why Asana was so good at what he did, man. You know what I mean? He was able to control his area for years. Anybody that tried to stand against him, he was able to shut it down. But you would think that some people would know how to politic and wiggle and be able to work out issues instead of just, kill. You know what I mean? Because we already know what repercussions come when those type of orders come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Indictments. I mean, look at this whole article. They know everything that's been going on. They know all the directives. They know who was used. And that's the thing that fascinates me, that you could still know what the consequences are for these actions, but you got to know that they know everything that's going on, man. I mean, there's nothing you can get by nowadays without them catching on to it, period. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, it's the same with any organized group, man. There's going to be issues. There's going to be money conflicts. There's going to be, just I'm not feeling your personality. I don't dig your stilo type of things, bro. Nothing's perfect, man. But both groups have seemed to make it work for the most part, man. There's always going to be, every couple years, there's going to be things that happen, bro. It's alpha males. But yeah, it's hey, here's the lesson for today. I haven't done a lesson in a couple videos, but if you're not involved in these kind of criminal organizations, you don't got to worry about being killed.
Yeah.
That's a real simple lesson for the day, bro. They won't kill you.
I mean, how many times do you hear about associates acting on behalf of another member, doing their bidding out there? Next thing you know, they're getting whacked for just, taking those orders, man. That's walking on eggshells, bro, to be honest with you, man.
Hey, that's what's going to happen though with people that don't stay in their lane. We've talked about it a lot of times on here, during the whole federal state deal, is just staying in your individual lane, bro. When you get out of your lane, you open up yourself to, what did you just say? Like, who are you? You open yourself up to that kind of stuff, man. Stay in your lane.
And the thing is, right, is once everything gets cleared up, sometimes there could be some internal conflicts, especially within that group, man. There could be some internal conflicts, right, where people start bad mouthing and they're talking, and those made members don't forget, man. And there's been people who've been used as basically, I've heard this, especially in the feds, this has happened, where they've used certain individuals, people who are associates of this particular group, to do hits on made members, knowing damn well they're going to get deemed no good afterwards for doing that. That's happened, man. I've heard a couple stories, man. So that's the thinking process of some of these people that are part of these groups, is they're not worried. They're only worried about their own prosperity to achieve the goals that they have set forth. Because I've heard of a couple hits where they've used regular camaradas to actually hit made members. And even though the hit was sanctioned and it was a legit hit, the camaradas that took action by touching that granada was deemed all bad. It's supposed to be the same thing with the NF2 though. You know what I mean? But time and time again, time and time again, you're starting to see people who are not members of these particular organizations that are starting to take actions, and that's going to make you expendable when the time comes. You know what I mean?
What's a messed up thing about that though, where it say like I don't know exactly how they get down, but like the fellas up north, man, if you're on that second tier, that soldado, that bro, whatever you want to call it, and the big homies ask you to take care of something and you don't, you could also be construed as a coward.
Oh yeah, you get deemed
So
no
it's a
good.
catch-22 in that situation where I'm supposed to let these guys take care of their own business and stay out of their business, but then I'm asked to do something that may or may not be crossing the line. I do it, I could get in trouble. I don't do it, I could get in trouble. It's like, man, try to learn your lane and stay in your lane. Them guys ain't playing.
Yeah.
And none of these groups, the boys from down south, not playing. Boys from up north, not playing. The white boys, they ain't playing. None of them are playing, bro. There's no joking.
What did you
Life
think
is cheap.
about that hit that that MA member did for an AB in this article?
It's I mean, I don't know the story. I'd have to look into it, man. I mean, they work together, you know. We need some help. We can't get to this dude. Can you grab him for us, etc. You never know. I'd have to try to find that particular story before I had a good
I mean,
opinion
I
on
could
it, but I
see
wouldn't
it
be
happening. I
surprised.
mean,
That's what I'm saying. What would
I
surprise
can
me
see it
more is
happening.
if the NF did one for the BGF. That would shock me. But the white boys and them, man, you never know, bro. They get into it all the time on the yards nowadays, bro, and they're still chilling, so who knows, bro.
Yeah.
I remember most of the funk, man, like right around early 2000s, before all this end of hostilities and people going back to the hole, the whites and the surenos were getting at it everywhere, and the Crips and the surenos were getting at it everywhere. Our stuff was relatively peaceful at the time. You know what I mean? Everybody else was going off, and we were kind of just, oh well. Anyway, we found this article. Flacco found it, man. We found it interesting. A lot of people ask us about the San Gabriel Valley and what's going on out there. There's a good example. Nothing's changed, bro. It's all the same, no matter where you're at, north, south, LA, the Valley, Salinas, Stockton. It's gangster stuff. I mean, that's all there is to it.
I will say this. This is pretty accurate to how Jacko operated, man. He kind of operated like as far as a high-ranking leadership position. There was another MA there that was in the same block, long-time MA member, Nagel, Robert. I want to say Robert Cabral, that was there, and a couple other MA cats, and pretty much Jacko had pretty much the obvious there. He had the jurisdiction, and he had delegated certain Surenos to run that block for him. And you could see it, man. Anytime there was yard and you were in the walking along cages, everybody was yelling his name, hey, Jack, hey, Jack, hey, Jack. You know what I mean? And they're fucking up there like puppies and shit, waiting for him to come to his fucking cage, man. Yeah. All excited when they're put right next to him, man. So he did have that type of respect in there, man.
That's
the dude was about his money.
That's how it was with the one that I was in C12 with when I was with Tibbs and DC and them. We have Fernie, Big Fern up there, and it was the same thing. He was like a celebrity, you know what I mean? Every movement, he was a cool man. He died a few years ago, but cool dude. Yeah, them dudes are the same. They get down a little different, but everybody's the same, bro. It's all about the money. It's all about power. It's all about politicking.
Yeah, they were politicking up there though amongst each other, man, too, for a minute, because there was other ones there. I was there with Daryl for a minute. Marty from King Cobras was there for a minute. I mean, there was a whole bunch of different inmate cats up there, man, and it seemed like because they had more access to the main lines there, they were able to have a little bit more, how do you say it, involvement out there in the main lines. Anybody that remembers around the 2000 periods before the end of all hostilities, around that period, a lot of the directives were coming more out of Corcoran because Corcoran had more access to those main lines, as well as more to the visits. The people were able to get more visits there in Corcoran. So there was a lot of influence that was coming out of those Corcoran shoe from the big homies to all the facilities and to the streets as well.
Corcoran was much more accessible for everybody. It's a lot closer for each group. Pelican Bay is just way the hell out there. So it makes sense.
Well, LA County Jail is pretty much almost their county jail is pretty much their headquarters almost, man. Everything comes out of that LA County Jail. I know you got San Diego, you got all those small other counties out there, man, but LA County Jail is kind of recognized as basically almost like a headquarters for them, because they're always going back out to cases. They're always coming in. So you always have members coming in at that time. You know what I mean? As opposed like for the NF, it was always Pelican Bay. Yeah, you had people that were up in the Bay that were high-ranking authority members, but they were more concerned about their business out there in the streets. When people are in the county jail there, it's a little bit different because it's such a big area. They're able to have so much more influence on the streets from there and then send directives to prison. So it's kind of interesting how it operates a little bit different as opposed to the NF. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of senior members in the Bay that had just as much jurisdiction and authority, man. But at that time, a lot of shit was coming out of the LA County Jail. And a lot of shit was getting short stopped when it got to Corcoran. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting how they politic too. The same type of internal strifes and power struggles for authority and jurisdiction. It's the same thing that you'll see within them because they don't have that hierarchy. It's just some places will have more influence just because of the access that they have. If that makes sense.
No doubt. Yeah, I think as far as the homies went, man, it would be Pelican Bay, then San Quentin 6 Yard, and then who knows after that. Corcoran and Pelican Bay, San Quentin 6 Yard. Those were the 3 places of influence usually, in my experience. Yeah. But all right, YouTube, man. It's your boy Rojo, Big Flacco, San Gabriel Valley, big homies down south. Holler at you later. Have a good, productive Saturday. Enjoy your weekend.